Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde routine continues for the Jets. We hand the Bengals their first win of the season. Here are my top 5 takeaways from today's game. Jets! Welcome to Jets Talk. My name's Ryan. I'll be your pilot today. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button. If you've been here before, welcome back. I love having you here. Guys, the roller coaster ride continues for the New York Jets, so what better time than now to introduce the Win Some, Lose Some mug. I'll leave a link in the description down below. We're going to do a limited run of those. Guys, the Jets hand the Bengals their first win of the season, 22-6. For those of you keeping track, that puts the Jets at the 9th overall draft pick. Next week's matchup is really going to be a real big thing we want to keep an eye on. A win here will drop the Jets down as low as the 15th pick, where a loss could possibly have the Jets back in the top 5. Let's jump right into my top 5 takeaways. At number 5, I have the penalties. For me, this was the most glaring issue that I saw with today's game. Not only did it put us in consistent, terrible downs and distances, but it actually cost us 2 points when we had that holding penalty in the end zone. This is an area where the Jets have actually improved over the course of the last 4 weeks, but today they came out and had 10 penalties for 106 yards, and it felt like anytime we got some kind of momentum going, it was wiped out by a penalty. On the other side of the coin, the Bengals had 2 penalties for 15 yards, and one of those penalties was a 5-yard delay of game that they intentionally took to give their punter more room to kick the ball into our, 1-yard line or wherever that wound up being. And for those of you keeping track, through 12 games, the Jets' rushing total is 871 yards, and the Jets' penalty yards is actually 985 yards. So not going to win many games when you have stats looking like that. At number 4, we have the offensive line, and the Jets were just pushed around today. We were unable to slow down a very mediocre Cincinnati Bengals pass rush, and Carlos Dunlap had a career day. He had 3 sacks of Sam Darnold, and we just could not get anything going offensively. The Bengals came into the game ranked 32nd in rush defense, but when you have the offensive line committing the penalties that they did and putting us in 2nd and 3rd and longs consistently, Bell never really had a chance. I think he had 17 rushes, and you really want to see that total up a lot higher, but we really took the ball out of Bell's hand by shooting ourselves in the foot. At number 3, we have Sam Darnold. And I really like the connection that we're seeing here with Robbie and Sam. 7 catches, 101 yards, and really that's just the tip of the iceberg. We really could have had another touchdown added onto there. Sam underthrew a ball a little bit. Robbie was unable to adjust to get it. He continues to show why Joe Douglas should be working on a contract extension for him. You want to keep this kind of chemistry going moving into future seasons with Sam. I do get slightly frustrated with Sam. He had one pass that probably should have been intercepted, and then he had another play where he rolled out to his left, had about 6 to 8 yards of open grass in front of him where he should have just taken off and ran, take what the defense gives you. But he throws the ball across his body to Crowder, which is, off its mark. Crowder can't adjust to it, drops to the ground. Just a real head scratcher of a play, and I want to see Sam kind of make smarter decisions in that regard. We saw this, last week or 2 weeks ago where he had some room in front of him and just decided not to run with the ball. At number 2, we have Jamal Adams. He was seen after the game in a walking boot. It's an injury that he said he sustained in the first quarter of play. He says he doesn't want to come out of the game because he didn't want to let his teammates down. And while I admire the toughness and the leadership and everything like that, I'm not sure it really mattered in the grand scheme of things. We made a very bad Bengals offense look like they were all pros out there. And, for the other side of the coin too, hopefully he does not sustain too bad of an injury. We really want to have this guy available. 1, if we want to sign him long-term after the season, or 2, if we want to move him to another team and recoup some draft assets. At number 1, we have coaching, and this falls down on Adam Gase and Greg Williams. I saw some things that I liked out of that first opening drive. We were just unable to connect with Robbie in the end zone, and we really did not create any kind of offense after that. You want to see some type of adjustment, something that can get this ball moving against a pretty bad Cincinnati Bengals defense. And on the other side of the coin, you have Greg Williams, who was going against the 30th ranked offensive line, and we could not generate any pressure on Andy Dalton. Dalton had all day to throw the ball back there, and we saw a little bit of halftime adjustments where we were able to slow down that offense, but by and large, the damage was already done. 22-6, the Jets were unable to dig ourselves out of that kind of hole. There's no excuse for this kind of play, and I know the Bengals are not as bad as their record would indicate. They've lost some pretty close games to some relatively decent teams, but you know what? Normally I'd say this game is the Jets playing down to the level of their competition, but when you look at what the Jets have done over the course of the last few weeks and the teams that they've played outside of really the Raider game, The Jets are 2-2 against some of the worst teams in the NFL, and it's probably more of a slap back to reality for where the Jets are and where they stand as far as the development of this team. Guys, let me know what you thought of everything down below, and as always, go Jets.